Hi everybody, welcome. Here we are, another Saturday workshop. I have a good workshop. I think I'm biased, of course, but I think there's some really helpful aspects in today's workshop. It's on neurobiology, instant gratification, and mindfulness practice. So we're going to leverage an understanding of our neurobiology so as to better understand why we get so caught up in things like craving and donuts and why it's so hard to resist instant gratification sometimes. And then we're going to learn how to directly apply our mindfulness practice in some of these situations and circumstances so that we can, when we want to, when we feel like it's a real benefit to us, we can make the choices that are more in alignment with our true goals rather than feel like we're caught in a cycle of, bad eating or overspending or spending too much time on social media or whatever it is. So we'll get started, and I'm just doing my little preamble, letting everyone settle into the session. We'll get started in just about one more minute. I'm so happy that you're here. I hope you're happy that you're here. We'll do 2 meditations. So you got to get a pillow for your back or a cushion close by. Now's your time. Get a little beverage. I'm going to drink a little beverage and then I'll go ahead and get started. Yay, here we are. My dad, growing up, he always used to drink like this. He'd go, ah. Childhood memory. Sometimes he'll still do that around my kids, then my kids will start to do it. It's such a funny little thing. Ah, right? Really enjoying the beverage. All right, just about 30 more seconds until we're going to get started. So getting yourself comfortable. Maybe closing alternate tabs on your browser, maybe letting the folks know around you or in the household that this is what you're going to be doing. I'm going to hold myself to that hour time frame for sure. And it looks like it is time to begin. So let me just take a nice deep breath. Get my mind focused. So welcome everybody. Welcome to today's workshop. It's called Neurobiology, Instant Gratification, and Mindfulness. Kind of a lengthy title, but hopefully you'll see that they really do coordinate, and if we can get them stitched together in a certain way, it's going to be a lot easier to apply our mindfulness practice. So where I want to begin with today's session is with this primary discussion on how neurobiology fits in with instant gratification. Over the 21, 22 plus years at this point that I've been teaching mindfulness, one of the most helpful teachings that I'm able to give to my students, and when I say helpful, it means I see it helping them in their real day-to-day lives. And I've seen it help myself tremendously as well, is when I can share some teachings on neuroscience and on our neurobiology in such a way that we can understand that a lot of our brain's natural tendencies bring us into tendencies such as instant gratification, such as that need to really stuff 5 cookies in your mouth or buy way too many clothes or to spend too much time on social media. There's a natural tendency within our neurobiology that kind of leads us into those directions. And when we understand that one of the primary motors behind these types of behavior is the hardwiring of our brains, and we can start to acknowledge that, oh, that's my neurobiology. What that does for us is it takes a lot of that burden, the load that we put on ourselves when we personalize the experience. So what I mean is this: most people, let's use food, and I'm going to branch beyond just food as I talk about instant gratification, but food is such a prevalent and common source of this satiation or this desire to satiate this need for instant gratification. So what a lot of people do is they'll eat 5 million cookies and then they say, what is wrong with me? Why am I like this? I hate myself. There's something like broken. I need fixing. And it creates this huge burden that we create for ourselves through personalizing the phenomenon. When you understand that there's a motor behind this behavior that comes from the basic design of your brain, and we'll go into that a little bit more depth one step down the road here, when we can acknowledge, oh, that's my neurobiology, that's where that tendency comes from, it depersonalizes the phenomena a little bit, which is, I have seen over the years, be one of the greatest helps in being able to leverage an understanding of neuroscience and like our self-worth, how we speak to ourselves, how we think of ourselves. It's basically not that there's something broken about us that needs fixing, but it's basically our neurobiology that sends us into these directions. Now, we can't just leave it there and say, oh, that's my neurobiology, so of course I'm going to eat 5 million cookies or whatever it is. We then have to take some further steps. But those further steps are a lot easier to engage in when we haven't added the additional burden of that huge degree of self-criticism, thinking that there's something broken about us that needs fixing. A large reason that we do a lot of the things we do is our basic neurobiology. So when we talk about neurobiology as it relates to instant gratification, you should know that your brain is absolutely hardwired toward instant gratification. It naturally wants instant gratification. A beautiful way to understand why it wants instant gratification so much is to also understand that this thing called uncertainty is like poison for your brain. Your brain hates uncertainty almost more than it hates anything else. Probably pain is, your brain hates pain probably more than it hates uncertainty, but I would venture a guess that uncertainty is a close second. Your brain hates uncertainty. Why? Because your brain's number one job is always the same. It's always to help you to survive. So the more certain it can make your world and how you interact with your world, it feels better about your chances at survival. It feels better about its possibility of actually fulfilling its number one job, which is to help you to survive. Uncertainty to the brain means that something can pop out of the bushes at any time. And how do you plan for that? How do you prepare for that? And so it makes the brain deeply uncomfortable to live in a deeply uncertain world, which to a certain degree is our world in general. Your brain loves the fact that it knows you're going to get paid every single Thursday. Your brain loves the fact that you have a roof over your head that is hopefully going to keep the rainwater off your face this evening. Your brain loves the fact that your kids come home every evening at 4 o'clock or that they call you on the weekends. Your brain craves certainty. Now, when we begin to connect the dots in relation to instant gratification, there's a lot more certainty behind the experience of instant gratification as compared to its kind of nemesis, which is delayed gratification, right? So your brain knows that if you pick up that chocolate chip cookie and bring it toward your mouth and go like this toward the cookie and put it in your mouth, that in about 1 or 2 seconds, it's going to experience pleasure. There's a heck of a lot more certainty within experiences of instant gratification as compared to delayed gratification. If I don't eat the cookie because I want to be healthy, there's a lot of uncertainty behind whether or not I'm actually ever going to experience that. I could not eat the cookie and then later on get hit by a bus, right? Or maybe I don't eat the cookie and I am healthy from not eating all those cookies 3 years or 10 years down the road. And who knows what can happen in that time. So there's a lot more uncertainty in delayed gratification as compared to instant gratification. So the hardwiring of your brain that likes certainty is also going to propel or motor us toward those experiences of instant gratification. So I use food, and food is the most commonly talked about experience as it relates to instant gratification, but I kind of want to broaden the conversation a little bit because it's not always food with each and every one of us. Food is a big deal for most of us. That's why nowadays in America, you go anywhere, to the mall or to, a dentist's office or whatever it is, and most people are experiencing uncomfortable or unhealthy body weight. So food is a big deal here in the West for sure as it relates to instant gratification, but there's other ways that it shows up in our lives as well. So for example, another kind of instance of choosing instant gratification over delayed gratification would be, let's say you've decided you want to exercise, go for a brisk walk every morning. There's way more instant gratification in the experience of hitting the snooze button, staying in your bed for those additional 30 minutes, as compared to more of the delayed gratification that you'll experience through greater health through going on those walks every morning. That's an experience of instant gratification. That's why a lot of times it's so hard to stay with exercise regimes. There's the instant gratification of staying on the sofa, staying at home, staying comfortable, compared to the uncertainty of the delayed gratification of the exercise. The temptation to go out and have a drink with friends or have one more drink with friends as compared to not engage in that behavior, or not having an additional drink, or not staying out too late. That's another formulation of instant gratification. The temptation to stay up late watching movies, binge watching Netflix, or staying way too long on social media, watching little cat or dog videos or videos of your friends' kids or whatever it is, as compared to the delayed gratification of getting a good night's sleep. You might turn off social media at 9 p.m., but there's a lot of uncertainty whether or not you're actually going to be able to fall asleep, stay asleep, feel better in the next day. But there's a certainty behind staying watching Netflix. You know you're going to get that gratification. There's more certainty there. And then finally, the desire to buy something on credit as compared to saving the money for it, or buying more than you actually need. Right? There's that instant gratification that is certain. We get that pleasure. We get to come home with our little bag of goodies. We have a closet stuffed full of clothes, and we come home with 3 more shirts because it feels good, compared to the delayed gratification of saving your money, not spending it, saving it for a rainy day. So these are some additional instances within which that tendency or desire for the certainty of instant gratification surfaces in our lives. The other thing I want to bring up, and I want you to take note of, is that after a day within which you experienced a lot of uncertainty, you will crave certainty. Let me break that down a little bit. So let's say at work, you get a deadline moved, and now you're uncertain whether or not you're going to be able to hit that deadline. Or let's say you had planned to learn all about your next project in your 10 a.m. meeting, but you got some emails or your kid got sick, and so you had to miss that 10 a.m. meeting, and now you're uncertain as to when you're going to get the information on the new project. Things changing a lot in unexpected ways creates a lot of uncertainty throughout the course of the day. Or for example, you go to the doctor and you're expecting the doctor to say, "You look terrific, clean bill of health." Like when I went in for that mammogram that showed me that I had breast cancer, that came for me out of the blue. It really did. I was expecting one thing, and then suddenly I was thrown into a very uncertain world, a very uncertain experience. Another formulation, home repairs. You're going about your business, suddenly the door comes off the hinges, or you notice a roof in your leak. The guys can't come out for the next week To fix it, there's uncertainty there. What is the extent of the damage, or how much is this going to cost me? So on days that you really experience a lot of uncertainty, at the end of those kind of days, you will probably crave certainty. I love this language, and I encourage you to start thinking about using this kind of language in your own life. I think we can all relate to, say, the experience of we have a big, beautiful meal and we're full. But at the end of the meal, we're like, I just want something. I'm just like, I don't know what it is, but I just want something, right? The same thing at the end of a day where there's a lot of uncertainty. You just want something. And usually the easiest thing to reach for is food, right? What you're craving is the certainty of instant gratification. What you're craving is the certainty. And I love using that phrase instead of like, I'm craving, is it chocolate? Is it chips? No, what it actually is at its heart, at its basic level, is that I'm craving certainty. And when we start to open the door and open our realization and understanding that's what we're actually craving, that's what we're actually wanting, we can begin to use our mindfulness practice in this realm, in this sphere of experience. Because the absolute beautiful thing about mindfulness practice and why it works so well is because it could be argued that the only time that we ever have any degree of real certainty is in the present. Lots of uncertainty in the past. You could have an experience with 5 other people. How everybody remembers it is going to be very different, right? So there's, a lot of uncertainty as it relates to what happened in the past, how it affected us. We're not even sure how it affected us, what actually happened. And then the biggest place of uncertainty is obviously in the future. That's what we worry. What's going to happen to us? What's going to happen to our kids? What's going to happen to our finances? In the present moment, it could be argued, is the only place that certainty ever even has a chance of existing. Everything that's already here with us now has made it here. It's come to fruition. This pencil that is here with me now, it's real. It's here. There's a certainty to its existence in my life in this moment. It might break tomorrow and then I throw it away and then the existence of that pencil isn't certain anymore, but that's future. In the present moment, everything that you're seeing, everything that you're hearing, everything that you're feeling in the body, everything that you're smelling, everything that you're touching has already come to fruition. There's a certainty in this moment of its existence. And so through our practice of mindfulness, when we practice this leaning into this, turning toward this, really focusing in on our present moment experience, we can use our mindfulness practice to not only practice being more present, but also practice really tuning into and showing our brains that we do have a certain level of certainty in our lives here in the present, right? So we can use our mindfulness practice to show our brains, to allow our brains to really see and feel and experience the certainty of the present moment. And now listen to this. The more certain your brain feels, the easier it will be for you to then open up to the uncertainty of delayed gratification. Let me say that again. The more certain that your brain feels, and you can help it through your mindfulness practice, the easier it will be in the overall scheme of things to be a little bit more open to the uncertainty of delayed gratification. If you're not allowing your brain to experience any type of certainty on any of your days, it really starts to close off to the uncertainty of delayed gratification. It wants something to hang its hat on, which one of the biggest formulations of that is instant gratification. It knows what it's going to get. If you can start to give your brain more experiences of certainty through your mindfulness practice, it's going to be a little bit more open, a little bit easier to bring some delayed gratification, exercise, not eating the cookie, not spending hours shopping or spending too much money. It's going to be a little bit easier to release some of those habits if you're getting your brain some level of certainty. Now, last note before we'll meditate, if you've been like giving yourself instant gratification every day for years, let's say it's your habit to every night at 9 p.m. when the munchies surface, you just eat and you watch Netflix and you shop online and you are on social media or whatever it is. If you've been doing that for a period of time, you might have to think about it that you're kind of addicted to instant gratification. That's okay. Probably most of us, if not all of us, are to some degree. So whenever we have any type of addiction, we're caught in a cycle. A, it's going to bring suffering. And B, it's going to take a little bit of time to unwind that, right? That's why it's easier for some people. Like you go to a buffet line, you look at your annoying friend who very easily cruises past all the desserts, and you, it's like this big traumatic experience. Well, they've probably been training their brains a little bit to understand and experience delayed gratification. They might have a little bit more certainty in their lives, or noticing a greater degree of certainty, and they've kind of unwound that addiction to instant gratification. And it literally changes the hardwiring of your brain, just as any type of addiction changes the hardwiring of your brain. But the beautiful thing is that through consistent practice of, like, for example, mindfulness, we can begin to hardwire our brain in a way to notice more certainty in our life, which then, as I mentioned, will help make us a little bit open to some of the uncertainty of delayed gratification, which is probably what we want to encourage in our lives. If you want to be exercising and you're not, if you want to be eating more healthy and you're not, if you want to be spending a little bit more wisely, or if you want to reduce some of your overconsumption, right? Okay. So I'm going to take you through a meditation that's designed to help us do just that, to help us really begin to see and feel and experience a certain degree of certainty in our present moment. Okay, so let's get ready to meditate. So let's just start off by beginning to move. We've been sitting for a while. Ooh, my back just did a nice snap, crackle, and pop. So maybe lifting your arms up overhead or out to the side. Whenever I start stretching for a meditation, I like to make my body really big. So I move in all directions, take up some space. And don't forget your legs, right? So maybe stretching your legs out in different directions, moving some through the hips, wiggling your toes. Stretching the jaw. And as you move, I want you to see if you can notice how each and every time you want to move, you can. So just staying in some movement for maybe another minute or so. And I just want you to see if you can tune into the fact that if you want to lift your arm up, you can. Or if you want to scratch your nose, you can. If you want to wiggle your toes or move your legs, stretch through the back, you can do this. So in this moment, there's a certain degree of certainty with a certain ability to move. Obviously, that ability might change in the future. It's probably changed from the past as we age. But right now, if you want to roll your wrists around or roll your ankles or whatever it is, you can probably do that. There's a certainty behind it. Can you notice that? Tune into that. And now I'm just going to ask you to slow your movements down. Really starting to slow your movements down. And again, you can do that. And then I want you to slow your movements down to the degree to which you're hardly moving at all. So maybe just a little movement through the body as you breathe. You just made that happen. So now as we sit here relatively still and with our eyes closed, I want you to begin to feel into your body. So really feeling into your whole body. And sometimes what I like to do to amplify this experience is I'll practice getting a visual in my mind of my body just sitting here. So it's like I see myself sitting here as I'm feeling into the body. Maybe try that. Can be really helpful toward focusing the mind. So in essence, we're practicing really knowing we are here. You can see yourself sitting here in your mind's eye. You can feel your body. We are here. You might not know exactly where you've been or where you're going. But in this moment, we are here. Let yourself feel that now, if you can. So then what we can begin to do is we can begin to find even more evidence of the fact that we are here. So maybe really feeling your feet on the ground or wherever they've ended up. Really feeling the solidness of whatever you're sitting on. Feel that solidness of the chair or the cushion, the solidness of the support beneath you. Really tuning into the fact that you have enough energy in this moment to hold yourself up, to hold your head up. So there's a certainty just in this moment of being able to hold ourselves more or less upright. And this breath that you're taking right now, it's happening, it's real. We might not know what the future holds, but in this moment, we can be certain that we are breathing. And what we want to do is we want to, for example, hold our attention on the feeling of breath long enough so that the brain gets the experience of certainty. Look, brain, this breath is happening. We are here, feet on the ground, supported by the chair, holding ourselves up, and we are breathing. It is happening. How wonderful. And really, anything that you're feeling in this moment is proof that you are here. Even anything that you're hearing, proof that you're here. The only place that uncertainty lives is in our thoughts of past and future. In this moment, we can be certain that we are here. Let yourself feel that. Let yourself release and relax into that if you can. I can feel the desk beneath my hands. I can feel cool air on my skin. What is it for you? What's the proof that you are here, certainly here, in this moment? maybe just about one more minute where we see if we can release into the certainty of this present moment experience that we're already having. You are here. We are here together. Your breath is happening. Your body is alive. You are hearing. You are feeling. We are here. And now just nice and slowly from this sense of groundedness, we can again begin to move. And noticing how once again you wish to move and you move. That is happening in this moment. It is certain. We wish to move in this moment and we move. How lucky are we? And then just opening your eyes whenever you're ready. One of the reasons mindfulness practice works so well for stress reduction is because it allows us to lean into what is real, what is certain, what is coming to fruition moment by moment. There's no uncertainty behind what is here. How long it lasts, lots of certainty behind that. What it was before, lots of gray area there, not so much here in the present moment. So last note on that practice. So my encouragement would be to do that practice multiple times throughout the next couple of weeks so that you get a certain type of focused training and repetition on using your mind to show your brain certainty. And then what can evolve from some degree of consistent and repeating practice of a meditation like that is you can start to learn about aspects of your present moment experience that best speak to your brain as it relates to certainty. Let me give you an example to show you what I mean. So for some people, it's their breath. Their breath and just the fact that they're breathing gives them that feeling of certainty. I will be honest, that is not the case for me. That's not my best indication of certainty for me and for my brain. What I've discovered through practice is that I really like the feeling of being supported. So my go-to out in life is feet on the ground, butt in the chair, whatever's beneath me and holding me up. I think it comes from, I was a single mother. I'm not so much anymore. I got married about a year ago. And, the father of my children, he passed away when they were really young. So I was really a single mother. Of course, I had supportive friends and family to a certain degree, but really it was me with two little babies. I had twins. And I think that feeling of being supported in that moment is most helpful for me. And I wouldn't have discovered that except through kind of practicing consistently, finding certainty, and then realizing, wow, I really feel grounded in something like firm and solid beneath my feet. So what my encouragement is to do that meditation multiple times, start to discover what really speaks to your brain as it relates to certainty. And then your on-the-go mindfulness practice can be, because you can't always do a meditation, right, when you're feeling uncertain. But at work, if you know it's your feet on the ground, you can spend a couple minutes, throughout the course of the day, just really feeling that solidness beneath your feet, or the body in your chair, or your hands on your lap or your desk, or for you it might be the breath, right? So we can turn them into mini meditations once we kind of understand our landmarks, our hallmarks of what gives us the feeling of certainty that we might be craving. Okay. So when we're talking about instant gratification, what we're really talking about is craving, right? That's really what we're talking about here, craving. In my world, or in the world of meditation, most of the teachings, thousands upon thousands of teachings in all different traditions and applications of meditative practice, it's really taught and understood that craving is really at the heart of human suffering. Think about that for a moment. Craving is at the heart of human suffering. Let me kind of flesh that out for us. And I'm going to start doing this by going back to our neurobiology. So our neurobiology, our brains are designed to look for lack. Our brains are naturally predisposed, has a natural tendency, a hardwiring to both look for, find, seek lack. Let me give you an example. So let's say you've built this amazing fortress around yourself to keep yourself safe, which your brain would love, right? Brain's number one job is to help you to survive. You've built this amazing fortress, this amazing fence, but then you see over there and you start to clue into the fact that your fence is missing a couple planks over on the left side of things. So your brain will help you forget about the amazing fortress that's built almost like 360 degrees, and it'll focus on the 5 degrees of where the planks look weak or they're not totally fortified. The brain is designed to seek lack because it thinks that if I find lack, then I can work to fill it, and then I'll be more safe. It'll positively impact my ability to survive. But then what happens is we fill that lack, and then because the brain is naturally predisposed to find lack, to seek it out, you're just going to find it somewhere else. That's part of our natural neurobiology, right? The other thing that your brain is hardwired to do is to always want more. If you have something good, it would make sense that if you had more of it, that would be even better. And then the brain thinks so that if we run out, we have backup, right? So you have 2 closets stuffed full of clothing, but if something happens in that first closet, you lose it in a fire, it gets spilled on, rain damage, at least you have that second closet of clothes so that you won't be left clothless. That's kind of hard to say, clothless, right? So the brain is also predisposed to always want more, to fortify your stockpile, get more and more and more and more and more. It's one of the ways it makes life a little bit more certain, right? Fortify our ability to survive so that we don't run out of anything. So craving is really built on our neurobiological tendency to see lack and to always want more. That's where craving comes from. It's built on our neurobiological tendency to see lack and to always want more. That's where craving comes from. Now, to circle back to how craving is really at the heart of human suffering, where suffering comes from is from wanting our present moment to be something other than it is. That's the source of human suffering, wanting things to be other than they are. That's at the heart of craving, and that's at the heart of human suffering, wanting things to be other than they are, wanting them to be different than they are in any given moment. So, a couple examples. Let's say I'm at the grocery store and the line is really long and I start feeling impatient. Impatience is a form of stress, and stress is a form of suffering. That's what it is. It's a formulation of suffering. Where that suffering is coming from is I want the line to be going fast, and instead the line is going slow. That's the source of our stress. That's the source of our suffering. Wanting what's happening in our present moment to be something other than it is. Or I go to the doctor and she tells me that I have cancer, which absolutely happened to me. Where the stress and suffering is coming from is I want her not to be saying that to me vehemently, right? I want to not have cancer, and I have it. So I'm wanting my present moment experience to be something other than it is. That's where craving comes from. That's at the heart of human suffering. If I saw this present moment as having absolutely everything I could possibly want and need, I wouldn't have craving. But because we don't see our present moment this way, craving arises. Now you might say, oh, Michelle, but of course I'm going to feel upset and suffer if I get a cancer diagnosis. And I'm actually agreeing with that. I experienced a tremendous amount of stress and suffering when I went through that experience. But what we're actually talking about is where the suffering is coming from, where the stress is coming from. It's coming from craving, which is in essence not seeing this moment as enough, which is wanting, craving for this present moment to be something other than it is. So walking this back through a practice of training your brain to see wholeness more in your life's present moment is one of the fundamental applications of mindfulness practice as it relates to human suffering. How we walk this phenomenon back, how we start to unravel the coil of craving that we've been living under its tension practically our whole lives, how we start to unravel the coil, the tension of that is through training our brains to focus more on the wholeness of the moment rather than on the lack of the moment. Training our brains to see the enoughness of the moment rather than leaving it focused on wanting more, more, more. So it's a training, it's a repetition, it's something that you teach your brain to do, and in that repetition, we start to change the hardwiring of our brains. And one of the fundamental gifts of learning this teaching is that now when it arises, we can first say, oh, that's my neurobiology. So it's not that I'm a loser, I'm weak, I'm not strong enough, I'm an overconsumer, I'm greedy. Oh, it's my brain's natural neurobiological tendency to do this. And then we can engage in mindfulness practice directly designed to help us focus in on and really see and feel the experience of the wholeness, the perfectness, the fullness of any given moment. Let me share with you an example from real life, and then I'll take you through a practice of it. So one of the ways this appears for me personally is we have family movie nights mostly on the weekends, and I love it. I love it so much. So in my family, my little family, we tend to dogpile on top of us. So we have this one little couch and we all get on it, even though there's another empty couch right over there. Me and my husband and then my kids like lie all on top of us. And oh my God, I just love this. And one of my kids always like makes popcorn. He likes that. And we've kind of tried to amplify the popcorn experience. We've got little boxes of, oh, here's one right here. How'd that get there? Right? So we get these little boxes of popcorn and oh, it's just a wonderful experience. But then what happens is when I run out of popcorn, it's a little box, right? Is I start to want more. And now my practice used to be, and you can, if you know people who know me, they can attest to this. I can be a crazy animalistic muncher. I really can. I can go way overboard. Not so much anymore. But in my past, I have had that strong tendency of wanting to fulfill instant gratification with food, with munchies. I love salty, crispy munchies. So now what happens when I run out of my little portion of popcorn is I go, oh, I want more. That was good. I want more to make it better. Now I go, oh, that's my neurobiology. And right there, it brings me a little bit of relief. It's not Michelle just being greedy. It's my natural brain tendency. It's my neurobiology. And then what I'll move into right in that moment is I'll practice being fully present with the absolute fullness, wholeness of the moment, feeling my kids, their weight of their bodies on my body, feeling the breath, feeling the warmth of my husband beside me. And then the neurobiology will kick in again. Oh, but more would make this even better. And I come back, I go, oh, there it is again. There's my good old brain. And I come back to this training of really leaning into the richness and the fullness of the moment, that which I already have. So this is one of the ways that we get to break free from some of this cycle of craving, this cycle of always wanting things to be other than they are. If what gets us stuck in that cycle or in that addiction is seeing lack in the present moment, what might unwind that for us? Seeing fullness, right? It makes sense. It should make sense. So we train ourselves to really see and feel and really get to know the fullness of the moment. Now, before we do our meditation, it should be said that some moments aren't full of what you need to survive. Me on the sofa with my kids is knocking it out of the park. But like if my car is broken down on the side of the road, I don't necessarily have the fullness of the moment happening as it relates to my survival. So this wouldn't be a practice I might do there. Instead, my car broken down on the side of the road, I might go to certainty, the previous practice, right? I would go to feeling my feet on the ground, feeling my phone in my hand as I call for help, feeling my wallet in my pocket, feeling the coldness of the air, really trying to tune into the certainty of the moment because I'm in an experience of certainty. But in those other moments, we're at home, we're comfortable, we have everything we need, roof over our head, comfy, cozy bed, and you see that neurobiological tendency kick in of wanting just something more, something to enhance the moment. This is great, but it would be better with chips and dip and salsa and whatever it is. Then this practice is apropos. This is the perfect practice to do in those moments, seeing and feeling and really teaching ourselves to experience the utter fullness of most of the moments in our lives, if we're honest, is the practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being present for what is. It's the practice of being present with the utter richness and fullness and aliveness and connectedness of actually most of the moments of our lives, right? Okay, so let's do a meditation together right now that focuses on just this thing, okay? So we'll do a shorter practice this time. Let's get ready to meditate. So again, just moving and stretching, bringing some stretch and flexion through the back or the jaw, just whatever feels good and enlivening. And then just getting ourselves as comfortable as we can. Closing the eyes and again just feeling ourselves here. Feeling yourself here. Feeling the body supported on whatever is beneath you. Feeling the contact points. Feeling the warmth and other sensations that are letting you know that your body is alive. And just seeing if you can even allow yourself to enjoy for a moment this experience of aliveness in your body right now. Breath rising and falling. Thoughts appearing and disappearing. You are here. Can this be enough? So just in this moment, can you being here be enough? Feeling into that, at least as a possibility, if you can. Imagining that simply being here, alive, in this moment, is enough. So there's a completeness, a non-lack, a buoyancy that keeps you alive and breathing in this moment. Can this be enough in this moment? Your survival of so many previous moments has allowed you to live and be fully alive right now. Breathing with that, if you can. Breathing from within this sense of aliveness. And just seeing if with each out breath you can release any sense of lack. So taking in the air you need on the in-breath and releasing any sense of lack on the out-breath. Try that. Letting this breath, this moment, be enough. And just a few moments more, gently holding your mind and body in this peaceful space of enoughness. Let yourself feel it. Let it begin to sink into your brain. This moment is enough. And then let's take a nice deep in-breath together, just because we can. Nice deep out-breath. Beginning to move and stretch once again, just because we can. We're so lucky. And just opening your eyes when you're ready. So last note before we leave. I want you to know that it is not enough for your brain to just self-talk your way through this. So what I mean is, when I'm out with my kids on the sofa, it is not enough to just go, Michelle, you have everything you need. You don't need more popcorn. You've got plenty. You've got your kids. You've got your... That's not mindfulness practice. Mindfulness practice is awareness-based. It's a choice to move our minds into present moment experience. And present moment experience, awareness, is different from thought. Your brain understands English, but that's not the language of the brain. The language of the brain is experience. This is why you tell a kid who's hammering something up on their wall, hey, don't hold the nail like that. You're going to smush your fingers with the hammer. And the kid goes, yeah, whatever, Mom, whatever. Where the brain is going to learn, don't hold the nail like that, is when it gets the experience of squishing the finger beneath the hammer. That's the experience of don't hold the nail like that. That's where true behavioral shifts come from. Not from language, not from words, not from thinking, I shouldn't be eating this, I shouldn't want more popcorn, I have enough. No, we have to teach our brains to experience it. We have to use our minds to lead our brains into the experience of enoughness. So if we go back to me with my kids on the sofa, I have to let my brain feel the children's weight on my body, experience the warmth of my husband beside me, feel the breath, feel the support beneath me, experience it. And I think that's an important kind of distinction to make, because us humans, we're always looking for shortcuts. And we can very easily turn these mindfulness practices into just little slogans that we try to say to ourselves. And then we wonder why we're suddenly eating our fifth thing of popcorn or online shopping or whatever it is. It's not enough to just tell ourselves to change. We have to experience either the certainty, in the context of this workshop, either the certainty of this moment in order to reduce the craving for more certainty, and or we have to teach ourselves to really lean into and be present and feel and experience the richness, the fullness, the enoughness of any given moment. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm always so honored that you've chosen to spend this time here with me. I hope so much it was of benefit. I'll see you next time.